Hey loves, welcome back to my channel. It's DA Fittings. So today we'll be making this beautiful gown. It is a corset gown with a zipper at the back. And if this is something you want to learn, then you want to stick around and watch this video to the end. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. So I'm just going to rule this line, which is going to serve as our start point on my pattern paper. And so since I'm working on an off-shoulder dress, I'm going to be moving 7 inches. I usually use 7 inches as a standard, but then again it depends on what you want. So I'm going to be taking the bust point measurement, which is 10, and then the under bust length, which is 13, the half length is 17, and then I'm going to be adding 2 extra inches to it. That would be like the full waist, since I want the plain fabric I'm going to be using to come down a bit. And then I'm just going to rule an horizontal line on those points, and then I'll go ahead and label it so that you can understand what I am doing. So this point here is the bust point, and then the under bust point, followed by what I'll call the true waist length, and then the full waist length. I'm just going to write it FW. Okay, so on the bust point, I'm going to be taking the nipple measurement divided by 2, which is 3.5. The nipple to nipple measurement is 7, divided by 2 is 3.5. And I'm going to be taking that point on all the lines except the full waist line. Then I'm just going to rule a vertical line to connect those points. Okay, so on the under bust length, I am going to come in by half an inch, and then I'll repeat that on the true waist length, and then connect it together. And then I am going to go out by 1.5 inch on that under bust length from that first line we drew. I'm going out by 1 inch. So if you add it together, it will be 2 inches we have there. That is this gap between the 2 points. I'll repeat that on the true waist length and then connect it together with a vertical line. Okay, so now I'm going to get the distance between the bust point and the under bust point, and it is 3. So I'm just going to mark 3 all rounded. Just look at what I am doing. I'm trying to get the cup for the corset, so this will make it very easy for you. Just place your tape on the bust point and measure it round like you see me doing. So after doing this, I'm just going to use my pen to connect all those points together. I'm using my pen because I do not want to confuse you by using the marker. So the pen is better for this. Okay, so after doing that, on the bust point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. Okay, and then on that start point there, that start point I drew out, I'm going to take the shoulder measurement, which is 15 divided by 2, 7.5, and then the bust point, I'm going to get a quarter of my round bust measurement, which is 8.7 inches. So from those 2 points there, I'm going to get the midpoint. I'm just going to flip my tape like this and get the midpoint. So that midpoint, we are going to connect it to that part there that you see me touching. Yes, to the 1.5 point we went out by that time. We're going to connect it together. Just look at what I am doing and you will understand. I like using freehand a lot, but if you're not good at using freehand, please make use of your curve ruler. It will be easy that way. I am used to using my free hands. And then on this middle part here, I am going up by 1.5 inches because I don't want it to be too exposed. You can decide to go up by 1 inch. You can decide to leave it on the bust point. It depends on what you want. So I'll be going up by 1 inch, and then I'll be going in by 0.7 inch. You can decide to do ½ inch or 1 inch. I'm going in by 0.7 inch, and I'll leave it at that. And then I'll connect that part, that ½ inch we took earlier. I'll connect it to this point right here. And I'm also using my free hand, but please make use of your curved rule if you are not good with free hand. So after doing that, from that point there, I'm going to come in by 0.7 inch, and then I'll go out by 1.5 inch, 0.7 inch inwards, and 1.5 inch outward. So I'm just going to connect it to this point right here, to my under bust. You want to connect the under bust to that 1 inch there, like that. And then from the bust point, you come up to the bust point. You want to connect it to that 0.7 inch at the top that we marked just now, like that. The reason why you want to do that is because you don't want to have that your bust point pointing too much. You don't want to have it pointing too much. You want it to be well blended. And then from that 1 inch, you want to connect it downwards to the under bust, and then upwards to that 1.5 inch we got earlier, just like you see me doing. You see me blending that place because I do not want it to be too pointy. This is one of the easiest way you can draft out a corset. Okay, so now I'm just going to connect that points together to meet this point here at the center front, like this. You can use a curved rule, but you don't want to make it too straight, so you can just use your hand to blend it like you see me doing. And also the middle part, I have to also make it, round kind of, so it's not just straight. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do now is to shade out this part here, because we are not going to be needing it. Okay, we're not going to be needing that part there. So remember, we already took out our bust measurement like this. We're just going to repeat the same thing. Our bust measurement divided by 4, and then I'm adding ½ inch there, although we're not going to be using that part there, so you may as well ignore that part. So going up, I already took out the bust measurement. So from that part that I took out the bust measurement, you want to add 2 inches, because we removed 2 inches at that middle, 2 inches, and then we want to add 2 inches sewing allowance. So you just want to come down by 1 inch, because I want this other part to be curved. I want it to be curved. I don't want it to be straight. So just like you see me doing, please follow closely. I'm just going to curve it like this so it doesn't go straight. And then I am going to get my under bust measurement, my round under bust, not my round under bust, the round under bust measurement I'm going to be using, divided by 4, 7.2 inches, and then these 2 inches that we removed, I'm going to be replacing it back, and then I'm going to be adding our 2-inch sewing allowance, and then I'll connect it to that top part. Whatever you remove, whatever part you have shaded out, please remember to put it back there so that your measurement will be correct. And then for the waist, I'm going to do the waist measurement divided by 2, which is 7.1 inches, divided by 4, 7.1 inches. I'm going to be replacing these 2 inches I removed earlier, and then adding my 2-inch sewing allowance, and I'm just going to connect it to the under bust. So after doing that, we are going to cut out this part here, this top part we just worked on. Please do not touch the full waist length. Let's just work on the top part first. We'll come back to the full waist length. Just do exactly what you see me doing right now. Follow what you see me doing right now. Remember the top part, the bust span at that top, the bust measurement at that top part. I divided the bust measurement by 4, and then I replaced the 2.2 inches I shaded out from that middle, and then I added 2 inches sewing allowance. So I'm just going to cut this out. Just watch closely at what I am doing. Okay, so after removing that shaded part, you want to bring the two pieces together like this, and then if you have a paper tape, you want to glue them together, not on top of each other, please. Just put them as close as you can as possible, and then just glue them together like this. So after doing that, you want to bring back the other part of the paper and then place it like this. Make sure they are matching, and then you want to use your paper tape again to join them together like this. So now after doing this, we want to get our hip length, because I want to cut the bottom and the top together. So from the true waist length, you want to come down by 9 inches, which is a standard when cutting out an high waist skirt rather. And then I want to get my knee length, which is 20. When I'm cutting on the fabric, I'm going to be adding the full waist length, okay? So now I'm going to rule a horizontal line across the hip length, and then I'm also going to do that on the knee length. Just going to label it the hip length and then the knee length. So after doing that, I'm going to divide to get the hip measurement, and a hip is 36.5 divided by 4. I'm going to get that, and then I'm adding a 2 inches sewing allowance like I did for the top, and then at the bottom, at the knee length, I'm just going to be removing 1 inch from the hip measurement. I'm just going to be removing 1 inch like this, so that will be 8 inches, and then I'll be adding 2 inch sewing allowance. So now I'm going to connect the hip length to the true waist length. So watch closely as what I am doing. I'm connecting the hip length to the true waist length, not the full waist, the true waist length. And then I'm also going to connect it to the knee length. Now when making the full length, whatever you get on the knee length, that is what you're going to be using for the full length. The bottom of the full length. Okay, so now that is done, I'm going to come down from the full waist length by 4.5 inches. So you can decide to come down by 5 inches or by 4 inches depending on what you want, but I'm coming down by 4.5 inches from the true waist length. I'm coming down by 4 inches, and then I'm going to connect it to the full waist length. Sorry, I'm going to be connecting it to the full waist length like you see me doing. Now you want to make sure that your at the middle part is very sharp. You want to make sure that it's sharp at the middle part. the V at the middle part is real point. It's very sharp, like pointed, just like you see me doing. Now after getting this, you don't want to divide the top from the bottom. No, you don't want to do that, because we're going to be using this pattern paper to draft out the back first before dividing it. So I'm just going to cut out this. So watch closely at what I am doing. So after cutting out the front, I'm going to place it on the back on a fresh pattern paper so I can get the back measurement. So before doing that, I'm just going to mark out 1.5 inches. That will, because we're going to be using a zip for this. So I'm just going to get 1.5 inches first and mark out rule out a horizontal line. So now I'm going to place the front pattern on that line that I marked there, that I just ruled out. I'm just going to place the front pattern on it like this, and then I'll be marking out all the lines, the bust point line, the under bust line. You might say, oh, there is no under bust at the back, but I like really at my under bust line, and it really makes the back to lap very well when I sew it. And then I'm going to mark out the true waist length, the full waist length, and then the hip length. So after doing that, I'm just going to rule out horizontal lines from this points that I just marked, and then I'll label it so you understand better what I'm doing better. So that's the full waist length, the true waist length, the under bust, the bust, and then the arm or the chest length, and that is the hip length. So now I'm just going to put my measurement back on. Bust divided by 4, which is 9.1. Plus 2 inches allowance, which is 8.7 plus 2 inch allowance, and then the under bust divided by 4, which is 7.2 inches, and then the true waist length, the true waist as my waist measurement divided by 4. So I'm not going to put anything on the full length yet. I'm just going to get my nipple to nipple, which is 3.5 plus half inch sewing plus half inch allowance. I'm going to be marking 4 inches from the true waist to the arm length point or the chest length. So I'm just going to rule a vertical line like this straight down, and then I'll be going out from that point by half inches, yes. And then I'll do the same on the under bust, half inch in, half inch out, and I just rule a straight line down like this to connect those points. And then at the chest point or at the arm point, I'm going to be coming down by 1 inch, and I'll just connect it to those points right there like this. I'm just going to shade out that part there. So I'm going to be replacing that part, which is 1 inch. I'm going to be replacing it on the waist measurement. I'm going to be placing it like this, and then I'll add my sewing allowance, which is 2 inches, and then I'll connect it to the bust. Remember, I already added the sewing allowance for the bust part, so I'm just going to connect it like this. Okay, so on this part here, on this free part here, I'm going to be getting the zipper allowance. So on the waist, I'll be going in by 1 inch, and then on the chest line or the arm line, I'm going to be coming out by 1 inch. That would be my zipper allowance. So the reason why I went in by 1 inch on the waist is so that I can have a well cinched waist. I want the waist to be well cinched. That's why I'm coming in. I don't want any bulging at the waist. That is why I did not go take it straight down. Okay, so after doing that, I am going to cut it out so that we can work on the bottom part. So you want to do this on your bodies if you want a well cinched waist and you want your zipper to, lap very well. So on this arm part, I am going to be coming down by 1 inch on that zip part on the center bar, because I want it to be deeper than the front. And then I also connected it to my 2 inches sewing allowance. Okay, just like you see me doing. That's why I shaded it out. I don't want it to just be straight. I wanted it to be curved a bit. So now that I've done that, I'm just going to cut out the top part. So before cutting it out, I was supposed to do something. I'll just take 0.2 inches out from that up place, from that top. And the reason why I'm doing that is because if you sew it like this, that middle part is just going to, it will be bulging somehow. So you want to take like ½ inch out or 0.2 inches out, and then connect it to that under bust point right there. I want to connect those points together, and then we'll be cutting it off. So by the time you sew it together, that is if you so by the time you sew it together, it's just going to lay flat very well. It's not going to be bulging at that top. See how it looks now. See how flat it looks. But if we had left it like that, it's going to bulge like this. So now it is better this way. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're just going to use our paper tape and join those two pieces together. So now we'll bring it down and join it to the bottom. You want to join that straight line, that's the first line I wrote out, that's the zipper line. You want to join it to the bottom like this. Not just look at what I'm doing and do exactly what I'm doing. Do not join the 1 inch you took from the waist point to this straight line. Okay, you want to join it like this accurately. So you can see that 1.5 inches line I took out initially on the back pattern. You can see how straight it is. That is how you should join it. And then you want to bring your front pattern, making sure that all the lines are aligned together, the full waist length and then the hip length. You want to make sure they are well aligned together like this. Okay, so now on the hip length, You want to come out by 1 inch, which is your zipper allowance. You want to come out by 1 inch for your zipper allowance, and then you connect it to that true waist. Like this. Please pay close attention to what I am doing. And then you want to move your front panel a bit and then connect the 1 inch you took from that waist inside to that part right there. So you can see how curved it looks at the waist side, and then from your hip length you want to connect it down to the knee and also to your full length when you are cutting on your fabric. So now you want to place your front pattern on the back with all the lines aligning with each other like this. Okay, so now that we have done this, we're just going to be cutting out the sides like this. It is very easy. Make sure the lines are aligning together like this when you are working with the front and the back. Make sure the lines are aligned. And then you want to trim out this zipper side, this part that you are not using. You want to trim it out. So now that we have done that, we can now separate the top from the bottom. See, that's why I said you should not separate the top from the bottom when working with the front, so that we can get the full waist length measurement. So now we can now go ahead and separate the front of the top of the front from the back. So bring back the front pattern rather, and then separate the top from the bottom like this. Just going to put this together to see if it's going to align, and it did align. You can see how it looks. It's aligning very well. Okay. So now we're just going to cut out our cups. And before you do that, you want to label it before you do that. So when you're cutting on your fabric, you won't get confused. So I'm just going to write center front at that part, center middle, side middle, and side. So by the time I'm cutting on my fabric, I won't be confused. You want to do that as well. So I'm just going to cut out the cups like this. So now that I've cut out the cup, I don't want to separate the fronts. I want to cut it on one piece when I'm cutting on my fabric. So you want to go ahead, when you're cutting on your fabric, go ahead and add 0.5 each sewing allowance around all those parts except the center front that I'm touching now. but the other side you want to add 0.5 inch all around it, including the waist part that you're going to be joining to the bottom. So if you notice, there is this there's how it looks at the front. The damask is going to be at that front like this if you look at the design. So I'm just coming down from the under bust by 2.5 inch, and I'm just going to connect it to this part here, like you see me do. I'm just going to connect it to that that nipple to nipple line I drew initially. I'm just going to connect it like this, because I'm going to be using the damask fabric instead of the plain fabric. I'm going to be using the flower fabric. So I'm going to be cutting out that part. It's going to match with the fabric I'll be using for the cup, and then the other bodies I'm going to be using a separate fabric. So I'm just going to pin that down. I'm going to take that down and then cut it out like this. So this part that I just cut out now is the fabric I'm going to be using there is going to match with the fabric I'm going to be using for the cup. And then this other side, the fabric I'm going to be using there, it's going to be different. Okay. So like I said, add 0.5 inch all around those places so that your work or your gown is going to, rest well on your body. Okay, so with that we have come to the end of drafting our front pattern. This is how it looks. So I'm going to bring back the back pattern. I don't want to cut it as one piece. I want it to be I want the piece to be separate. I mean that part, I want it to be separate, and then I will join it together. I don't want it to be one piece. So I'm just going to remove those tape and I'll divide it. But before I divide it, from the true waist length, you see that line there, I'm just going to rule a line straight down. That part I marked that I'm going to rule a line straight down to touch the full waist length, and then I am going to separate it. Then when I'm cutting on my fabric, I am going to be adding 0.5 inch on both panels, so that my measurement does not reduce or does not go short. Okay, I'm just trying to check if the measurement is correct. So it's correct, yeah. So I'm just going to rule a line straight down and divide it like this. Just remove my tape and I will separate it. So with this, we have come to the end of this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're going to recreate it. And if you like this video, kindly subscribe. If you've watched to this point, please kindly subscribe, leave a comment, and ask questions, and I will reply. I will respond to your question. Okay, thank you for watching. I love you. See you guys in the next video when we will be doing the sewing. Bye.